Hello, welcome back to another episode on the Young Adult Survival Guide. Today we're going to be talking about why is gossiping so harmful. Before we get into that topic, I do want to share a quick life update. This week has been pretty emotional. Some personal stuff has happened, and it's something that I'm trying to process and work through and really just focus on what's important to me, what matters, my goals, all of those things, my family, my friends. I also have been dealing with sleep issues simultaneously. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I have been seeing some doctors trying to work through that. This weekend, I'm celebrating some friends' birthdays, and soon I'm going to be going to San Diego on a girls' trip, so I am excited and looking forward to those things. But that is pretty much it for the life update. We're going to go ahead and talk about a few things regarding gossiping and venting. I'm going to break down the definition of gossiping, and then I'm going to talk about the definition of venting, and then the key differences between the two, and then some short-term and long-term symptoms of gossiping. And I know it sounds like a doctor, I'm not a doctor, but there are some consequences, good or bad, to every action that we have. And so I just think it's super important to talk about it in that way and like some of the consequences that happened or happen from gossiping. I also want to talk about some ways that we can release our emotions or vent in a positive and productive way that doesn't involve gossiping, so we don't experience those negative things, and that other people that we gossip about don't have to experience that either. So let's talk about the definition of gossiping. I wrote down some notes, so I'll just read from the notes that I created. Gossiping is speaking poorly about another individual to someone else or groups of people, often to feel better about oneself, to bond with others over a mutual dislike or hatred or annoyance with another person or individuals. And it's also coming from a place of kind of seeking validation or superiority or an ego boost, um, and from a place of hatred as opposed to a place of seeking peace or a resolution. So venting, the definition of venting, once again I wrote it down, is often done with one person or ourselves, and usually someone you can trust with the information. It is a therapeutic experience, and it's often to express our emotions and or release our emotions from a peaceful, from the intention to create peace within ourselves or within the situation. And it's usually focused more on ourselves or oneself as opposed to the other person. So the differences, key differences between gossiping kind of comes from a hateful or like, ill intent place, as opposed to venting is more of a expression that comes from a peaceful and loving way. Like we may vent and be irritated or frustrated or helpless in some way, but the intent, but like from venting, is coming from a place of I just want to feel peace and rest from this situation or within my own internal emotions. So knowing that, there is a big difference between gossiping and venting. And I want to share specifically the symptoms that result from gossiping. So some immediate symptoms we may experience or like reactions, responses, or whatnot from gossiping is we will often feel a sense of superiority after gossiping about another person or individuals. We'll feel better about ourselves because we're talking poorly about another. We may also feel closer to our friends or friend when we're doing this because that person relates to us. They're like, oh yeah, like they're so annoying. I hate them too. I can't believe they did that. And so now you both get that high of superiority and connection. You bond with your friends, and it's so addicting to gossip because of that mutual feeling and superiority ego boost. So not only that, but we will also tend to have an increased dislike or hatred towards that other person because we got acceptance and validation for our dislike or dissatisfaction with that person. So and not only that, we'll also be more likely to increase our mean girl behavior. We'll start to act differently or worse to that individual because we got validation in our negative thinking and talk about that person or people. So those are some immediate responses or symptoms that may result from gossiping. But there are some long-term effects that happen as well. So one thing that will happen if we continue or we gossip is we'll have a decreased sense of self-confidence. This is because when we talk poorly about another person or individuals, we will end up being more likely to talk poorly about ourselves. It's the same thing if we talk poorly about ourselves a lot, we're going to talk poorly about others and vice versa. So another thing is that let's say this person that we talked about, person A, has used their hands to pick up food as opposed to using a utensil. And we think that's gross and disgusting. Can't believe they did that. What's wrong with them? They're savages. And then somehow, some way, we end up going in like it's our family's house or a party that we know, and we pick up some food with our hands as opposed to with utensils. And we're hungry and we don't think. And then all of a sudden, we're like, oh my gosh, I did the same thing that I talked about the other girl, and she did that, and I thought I was better than, and now I'm a piece of shit. I can't believe I did this, and what are my friends thinking, or whatever. It's something super basic and simple, and probably not something people are saying, but it's that concept because basically we think we're so much better than this person. They're weird, they're terrible, they're mean, whatever it is, because of XYZ, right? But they have everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes, nobody's perfect. Maybe this person has this set of issues and this person has this set of issues, and they may be completely different, but there's still issues, and this person doesn't have the same as this person and vice versa, or they have similar issues and they don't realize it or whatever, but we're all human, we all make mistakes. So to talk about poorly about another person and all the things that are wrong with them, we're forgetting about, okay, well, we're human too. We have plenty we can talk about that's wrong with us. So what are we spending our time trashing this other person? So all to say that gossiping can create really a lot of self-hatred, negative self-talk, and therefore decrease our self-confidence. So another long-term effect, which I wrote down, is we will have mistrust with our friends. So we build this connection and we feel closer instantaneously. However, because that person is willing and engaged in negative talk about another person, we are automatically going to question and have mistrust in this person or people for gossiping and thinking they may be doing the same about us. Is this person going to go in another circle of friends and talk poorly about me when I'm not around? Because maybe you do that or whatnot, and then you could think that they do that, and it creates this negative energy and anxiety in social situations now, because now in big groups or whatever, you're thinking, is this person talking about me? Is this person talking about me? And it just grows into this animal of social anxiety and mistrust with friends. So it's a big deal because it actually tarnishes relationships. And also, like I said, we have anxiety, irrational fears that other people are talking about us, just in general, more negative energy and discomfort in social situations. And once again, it's an addiction though, because it feels so good in the moment, but the negative long-term effects, they show up. And it's hard to associate gossiping with that because they're long-term effects, not immediate. So, as you may notice, gossiping is tough to avoid. I have gossiped before, and I've also been the subject of gossip. I was homeschooled most of my life, but I did go to public school, 1st grade, 7th grade. I was bullied in my neighborhood. I was also the subject of gossip and bullied in 7th grade, middle school. And when I, got into my working years, I was gossiped throughout all of my history of working. And I found out that people were gossiping about me. And one thing I want to highlight is that not only is it going to negatively affect yourself if you gossip about another person, that person that you gossip about is likely going to find out one way or another. The truth always reveals itself. And when they do, it can isolate them and make them feel so insecure and alone and hurt. So when we gossip, it can hurt other people that we gossip about. And it definitely hurt me, and it made me feel very insecure, unloved, and uncared for. It was a tough time being gossiped about during my career and in middle school and all of those things. At the same time, on the other side, we are responsible for our own thoughts, emotions, and self-confidence. No one else is to blame. If someone's gossiping about us, it is not their responsibility to give us our own confidence. We get to determine our own value and our own self-worth separate from other people's opinions. Whether someone praises us to as like if we're a god or puts us on the floor, we should learn to realize that praise over here is just not, we're human. We make mistakes. We are very similar, and we are not up here either, but we are also not down here. And we get to decide our own worth and our own value. And so we have to really be in control of our own actions and behaviors. I share this information about gossiping because I think that if more people are aware of the negative effects and do it less, they're just going to experience greater benefits. So it's important to bring awareness and educate ourselves about gossiping, but at the end of the day, we cannot control other people and their actions. We can only control our own. And I just hit my mic. But yes, so that is the main part of gossiping, its negative effects and all of that. But I want to also mention that there are healthier ways to let go of emotion and release it and process it. So a lot of people, some people will repress their emotions, their feelings or thoughts, and not process them or express them or release them. And it is very important to do that. And I would say that there are ways you can do it where you don't involve any other person. We can write down our emotions or feelings in the pettiest possible way. You can be a complete a-hole on your journal that you never share with anybody or out loud when you're alone. So it's so important to really just let it all out and bring reality to it. So journal it, speak out loud in your room, video journal, think out your thoughts maybe while you're listening to classical music. I do that a lot. If you're alone, you could scream in a pillow or beat a pillow if you're angry, or you could cry it out, whatever it is. There's a lot of ways we can do things independently without involving another person. There's also therapy where an unbiased party is listening and you can just let it all out the same way. It is so important to do that, and you don't want to trauma dump on friends. You don't want to overshare with friends and involve them emotionally in all those things when you can do that independently and not create this negative energy to something that's based in an emotion, which emotions are temporary and fleeting, and something that people cycle through and just they come and go constantly. So that's something to keep in mind. And like I said, when you do this alone, you can be as petty as possible. You can just be I effing hate this person. They're a piece of shit. They're whatever it is that you feel, and just without any filter, without any inhibitions, you can just let it all out. Whereas with other people, you may have to filter it out and you can't fully express how you're feeling and really process it. I have a notification. Okay. So with that said, let's say you have a friend that is an unbiased party. Maybe they have no connection to the person you're talking about. That's possibly a good person. They're unbiased and they come from a loving place. They have a loving disposition, and they're going to give you perspective in a way that could be healing or helpful that you maybe haven't thought of yourself. It is important to get perspective from people that have, a clear head and can really help bring reality to the situation. But you have to be very careful with who you share that information with. If they are naturally a gossiper, bitter, angry, or just negative person, they may not be the best person to share that information with because they may give you perspective that leads you down a negative rabbit hole. So just keep that in mind. If the person knows the person that you're talking about or people you're talking about, you have to be very cautious about them as well, sharing that information with them, because they may now have a negative outlook on the person that they're in connection with and may start treating them differently or having thoughts that arise based on another person's opinion or perception or experiences with that individual. And I think it's so important for us to make our own decisions about people separate from other people's experiences. So just keep that in mind when you're sharing information with people. Know your audience, who you're speaking with, and really when you're sharing the information, especially with another person, you want to come from a place of you want peace, resolution, perspective, and it shouldn't be as much of a anger bashing, just petty talk when you're talking with another person, unless it's a therapist. So just again, keep that in mind. It's very tough to do, believe me, I know, but it's something I'm actively working on. So that is the main things, all about gossiping, the harmful effects, and how to like healthily let go of that information or that the emotions in a way that's going to be productive and peace creating. I created a business. It's called Girls on the Grow, and I have created my first event. It's going to be May 25th. We're going to go to a coffee shop. I'm going to meet with a bunch of girls. We're going to talk about our goals, create SMART goals, have our planners out, calendars, all the things. Just a productive way to connect with other women in Vegas. So if you are in Las Vegas or near Las Vegas, you are in your 20s or 30s, and you are just wanting to grow and just connect with other women, go ahead and message me on social media, Girls on the Grow 123 on Instagram. Once again, Girls on the Grow 123 on Instagram. You can also go to meetup.com and find Girls on the Grow and sign up to attend the event. I'm also building a wait list. So the link is in my bio on my Instagram. Basically, the wait list is to join a membership program to be a part of Girls on the Grow, where I create weekly events that are productive in nature or just positive in nature for women to come together. And the underlying culture that I'm creating with this group is non judgmental and no gossiping. I feel like there's so many groups and social settings where women get together and we just like to talk trash about other people. So it's really important for me to create a culture that is non judgmental and not gossiping. So if this is something that interests you, feel free to once again message me. I'll also leave my information in the show notes. And if this episode was helpful to you, go ahead and share it on your social media and tag me if you don't mind. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.